The desert sun beat down mercilessly on the small convoy of humanitarian workers, making their way through the war-torn region. Sarah Mitchell sat in the back seat, her weathered hands gripping a medical supply bag, her gray-streaked hair tied back in a simple ponytail. At 52, she looked like any other relief worker, determined and wholly unremarkable. Nobody would guess that beneath her humble exterior lay 29 years of classified operations, 3 Purple Hearts, and a legacy as one of the Navy's most decorated SEAL operatives. But here's what makes this story absolutely incredible. Sarah had left that life behind 5 years ago, trading her rifle for medicine, her missions for mercy. She'd seen enough violence, enough death. Now she wanted to save lives, not take them. Yet sometimes, the past has a way of finding you when you least expect it. Sometimes fate puts you exactly where you need to be, even when it's the last place you want to go. The checkpoint appeared suddenly, an unofficial barrier manned by rogue soldiers who'd abandoned their posts to prey on civilians. Sarah's instincts flared immediately. She recognized the setup, the casual positioning that was anything but casual. The weapons held just a bit too ready, the predatory gleam in their eyes as they assessed the convoy's passengers. Her driver, a young local translator named Amir, tensed beside her. "Easer," she whispered. "Let me handle this." The lead soldier, a brutal-looking man with cold eyes and a cruel smile, approached their vehicle. His 3 companions spread out, surrounding the convoy with practiced efficiency. Sarah counted exits, assessed threats, calculated angles, all in the space of a heartbeat. Old habits died hard. "Everyone out!" the leader barked in heavily accented English. "We inspect everything." As they complied, Sarah kept her movements slow and non-threatening. She watched as the soldiers roughly searched the other vehicles, pocketing supplies, terrorizing the younger volunteers. When the leader approached her, his eyes raked over her with contempt. "Old woman?" he sneered. "What are you doing in this place? Go home." Sarah met his gaze calmly. "We're humanitarian workers. Medical supplies only. No weapons, no politics." He laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the still air. His hand shot out, grabbing her arm roughly. "Maybe we keep you. Maybe we send a message to your people about interfering." That's when Amir, brave and foolish, stepped forward. "Leave her alone." The soldier's face darkened. He released Sarah and turned on the young man, striking him hard across the face. Amir crumpled to the ground, blood streaming from his nose. The other volunteers screamed. The soldier drew his pistol, pointing it at Amir's head. "You want to be hero? Eh?" snarled. Then, turning to Sarah with a vicious grin, he said the words that sealed his fate. "Watch your friend die, old woman. Then maybe you meet your end too, bitch." Something shifted in Sarah's eyes, a transformation so subtle yet so complete that later, survivors would struggle to describe it. The humanitarian worker vanished, and in her place stood something far more dangerous. She'd spent 5 years running from this part of herself. "But some things are written in your bones." "Don't," Sarah said quietly. "One word." But the tone carried the weight of 1,000 missions, 1,000 confirmed kills, 1,000 moments where she'd been the last thing bad men ever saw. The soldier turned, irritated by her audacity. He never saw her move. One moment, she was 3 feet away. The next, his gun was in the sand and his arm was bent at an angle arms were intended to bend. His scream cut through the desert air. What happened next took less than 15 seconds. The other 3 soldiers reacted, but they were facing someone who'd trained with the best warriors on Earth, who'd survived situations that would break normal people, who'd forgotten more about combat than they'd ever learn. Sarah moved like water fluid, unstoppable, inevitable. Each movement was economical, precise, devastating. The second soldier went down, clutching his knee. The third found himself disarmed and unconscious before his brain registered the threat. The fourth, the smartest of the group, dropped his weapon and raised his hands. Sarah stood among them, barely breathing hard, her gray hair slightly disheveled. The lead soldier whimpered on the ground, holding his shattered arm. She looked down at him with something that might have been pity. "I left this life," she said softly. "I came here to heal, to help, to make up for all the darkness I've seen and caused. I wanted to be different. She picked up his weapon, exploded the magazine, and tossed it far into the desert. But understand this, I will always protect those who cannot protect themselves. That's who I was, and that's who I still am. Amir stared at her, blood still dripping from his nose, his eyes wide with shock and awe. The other volunteers stood frozen, trying to reconcile the gentlewoman they knew with the warrior they'd just witnessed. Sarah helped Amir to his feet, her hands gentle again, the warrior receding back into shadow. "Let's go," she said simply. "People are waiting for these supplies." As they drove away, leaving the soldiers nursing their wounds and their pride, Amir finally found his voice. "Who are you, really?" Sarah was quiet for a long moment, watching the desert pass by. Someone who learned that the greatest strength isn't in how you fight, but in knowing when fighting is the only choice left. Someone who knows that sometimes kindness needs a guardian, and mercy needs a protector. She'd thought she could leave her past behind completely, but maybe that wasn't the point. Maybe the point was learning when to let it serve something greater than herself, not violence for its own sake, but violence in defense of the defenseless. That was the redemption she'd been seeking all along.